how much you can gain and save. It's unbelievable.
What we experienced after, handing in the Tipcheck report when we went into a plant and investigated about the savings potential, and what we've seen since the Ukraine war started and energy prices have really risen dramatically, besides that in parallel, of course, also there is an aim to increase the CO2 cost, but the payback time for technical installation improvements have on average been at 2 years' time before, and now with the new energy prices in many Tipcheck projects, we see below 12 months. This means for the investor that he gets the money paid back in the year of his investment. And this is a no-brainer, but still we see we have to do a lot of marketing and work to let the world know that this potential is out there and how cost-attractive it is.
Podcasten Isolert Sett utgis av ISO-partner, Norges ledende leverandør av teknisk isolering. Se vårt utvalg på tekniskisolering.no, med produkter fra Armacell, Glava, Parok, Rockwool og mange flere. Nå over til studio. Du får nå høre en innspilling av vår svenske søsterpodcast ISO-partnerpodden, hvor vi intervjuer Foundation Director i den europeiske foreningen for isoleringsbransjen, EiiF, Andreas Gürtler. Vi syntes denne episoden var såpass interessant at vi ønsker å gjøre den tilgjengelig for våre norske lyttere også. Selv om du kanskje ikke drar kjensel på vertene, Trond Erik fra ISOLERT SETT med i studio. Første stemme du nå hører vil være Thomas Hassel fra ISO-partner Sverige. God lytting!
Hello and welcome. This episode, I will say, going to be published in English, recorded in English. This time we had invited Foundation Director Andreas Gürtler from the European Industrial Insulation Foundation, EiiF, EiiF in English. In the studio, apart from myself, Thomas Hassel, I have Pierre Fonsecar, our sales manager.
Hello.
We have Christian Holmes, our seller
Hello.
on the industry and a Tipcheck expert. We had also Trond Erik Johansson from ISO Partner, also a seller and a Tipcheck expert in Norway. And then, of course, we have Andreas Gürtler. Welcome, Andreas.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation.
I will say something in Swedish before we continue. Denna podcast gjord i samarbete med ISO-partner och våra samarbetspartner, våra premiumpartners, Armacell, Parok och isoleringssystemer. Now, continue. Andreas, I think it's very nice to have you on this podcast because this topic we're going to talk about is current and I think that we can do so much, and I want you to tell us about this foundation and so on, and tell us a little bit who Andreas Gürtler is. I think that could be, and then we ask some questions. And then we will talk about Tipcheck in this program.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm ready to do that.
Yeah. Who are Andreas Gürtler?
That's a good question. So maybe you better ask other people who I am. But so maybe looking a little bit back on my career, I started, I studied actually German and sports to become a teacher at a gymnasium. And one of my thoughts behind was maybe a sports reporter could be a dream job for me. So while I was studying in Münster and Freiburg in Germany, I worked already as a journalist and went to the football matches of SC Freiburg, for example, in Freiburg at the time, to write articles about it. And I did my exam thesis at the public radio station, also the regional one based in Freiburg, and connected my studies with, let's say journalism as such. And when I had finished my first exam, my today's wife, and at that time girlfriend, got an opportunity to do some special studies. She works in conference organization in Berlin. And Berlin was a fantastic, exciting city at that time. And I said, okay, well, there's also a public radio station in Berlin. Let's work there. So we moved to Berlin and I was working there, and then it was not SC Freiburg, but Hertha BSC at the time. And I was really lucky because at that time they even played Champions League, and they did a match against Barcelona. Hard to believe today, but I was a lucky guy. Anyhow, I found out that being a sports reporter and reporting every weekend about how people play football is maybe not enough for me. It's exciting. I like to watch it. I like to play myself. But just to report what other people do was somehow not enough. And I was again lucky because the new economy popped up in Berlin. And I had the chance to develop a concept for a startup to create one of the first HTML newsletters. So that was, let's say, going a bit from the sports reporter, which I just found out this is not my life, into new economy and online editorial work. And the fantastic thing about online at that time, and at that time it was very new, was you can always measure your success. So of course today a click rate is something, okay, we all know, but at that time that you could do a kind of banner which works and you get 50,000 people onto your page on one day was a fantastic experience. As a radio reporter, you never get a feedback, right? So maybe if you do a mistake, you get one, but the rest is out in the air.
Oh, nice, nice.
So this is a bit how I started. And what did me bring finally to EiiF? That's again my today's wife, working and organizing big congresses, and one of the biggest one is the one from the International AIDS Society, and they are located in Geneva, and they asked her to work for them. So I quit my job. We went to Switzerland, and I had to find a new job. So usually in Switzerland, this is not a big problem because there's a very low unemployment rate. But it was in 2008 when the financial crisis hit everybody. And all I could find was actually EiiF.
That's good for the business and for the installations.
And I have to say, it's one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life, that I really crashed into this European Industrial Installation Foundation idea. At that time, there were 8 founding partners, each putting 75,000 euros on the table. And this vague idea, we need an installation energy appraisal program. So we need someone who has a kind of teaching background, which of course with my studies, and I did work a little bit as a teacher in Berlin, I had. We need someone to promote and to do, all this advertising and PR work, which of course I had also a little bit of a background. The only thing I didn't have, only very little, was installation.
Yeah.
And the good thing is I got this opportunity because Peter Hudemaker, who initiated EiiF as FESI president and manager of KEFA, he at that time, he said, okay, we have enough people who know enough about installation, but we have no clue how to establish a non-profit foundation. And we seem to have a problem in promoting all these benefits of our technology. And that was then the third part where it matched very much with my profile. So in Berlin, I had helped and actually initiated 2 non-profit organizations, one in Berlin, one in Munich before. So it was the third non-profit organization to develop for me, which of course was very helpful when we started.
Nice. You have almost been there since the start of this foundation.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about EiiF.
Yeah. So when we started, as I said, we had this money put on the table. Andreas, okay, please go make a non-profit foundation and develop this energy auditing program. We need to qualify our installation engineers how to do an energy audit. So that was the real idea when we started at the very beginning. Of course, with 8 founding partners and 75,000 euros, you don't get very far. So one of my first most important tasks, besides, of course, registering EiiF as a non-profit foundation here in Switzerland, was to find more founding partners. And the idea was we should be at least 10 to have 750,000 euros to start with. The good thing was we found 12. So we had 900,000 in the beginning, which was very good. And then in 2010, we developed the EiiF Membership Association, which is a supporting association where ISO Partner is organized in as a premium member, for example. And this gives us the continuous support every year that we have a budget to do the jobs we need to do.
Yeah. You talk about lobbyism. You talk with governments and so on to bring these topics up on a very high level. And this is a really important work, I think.
Yeah. So we do actually about 6. We have 6 main activities we do, which are all, of course, connected to each other. So when we started, the first thing really to set up was the today called Tipcheck program, Technical Installation Performance Check. Of course, we needed to find a name which you can, a market-ready name which people can remember. And Tipcheck actually works very well. Also, the EU commissioners remember that there is something like Tipcheck and that these are energy audits on installation, technical installation equipment. So that was the first thing to start with. What has become more and more important over time now is the activities we do in standardization. So standardization can be super powerful, and our latest success, I would say, is that we are developing now, based on the German guideline VDI 4610, a European norm 17956, which defines energy efficiency classes for technical installation. And they will be published in Q2 next year. So that's a high-speed development. We didn't even need 2 years to do that, which was, of course, because we had this very good, let's say, template already with the German guideline. And we used the network of our international Tipcheck experts to even improve it and make it more practical. And what you can see there is that Tipcheck, standardization, and lobbying are very well connected to each other. To give you a concrete idea, if I talk to representatives of the European Commission, for example, we look at the Industrial Emissions Directive, and you would see a sentence that equipment has to be well insulated. But what the hell is well insulated, right? And with this new EN 7956, we can replace this by, in existing plants, at least energy class C, and in new build plants, for example, energy class B. But if you do that, you need experts who are able to calculate how much insulation thickness of this material do I have to put on my pipe if I have 200 degrees Celsius to achieve the performance of an energy class B. And this is where the 3 projects come together. So there you see how the work we do is interrelated and connected, and very strategic in a way that you can do a lot of lobbying, but if you don't have the tools, it doesn't work. The fourth then is actually that we do these building awareness activities. So we made a study evaluating, again, you see the standard based on insulating all plants in Europe to energy class C, how much CO2 emissions, equivalent emissions, and how many kilowatt hours of energy could we save. And it's massive. In Europe, we talk about 40 megatons if all plants in Europe were insulated to an energy class C level.
Yeah.
And that is 160 million megawatt hours of energy. So that is really huge. As you are from Sweden, maybe Sweden is also interesting for you. Sweden is doing quite well, but still 1 megaton of CO2 are waiting to be tapped. And that is 5 million megawatt hours. So this is not nothing. When we come to this big figure in Europe, to give it a more practical idea, it's the annual energy consumption of 10 million households. Or the CO2 emissions, combustion engine cars, 20 million. So we really talk about big figures here. And we are all there, and it's nice that you do this podcast to send this message that this potential is out, and it's very cost attractive to tap.
And this we have two Tipcheck experts in the studio today, and since early spring we had in our newsletters bring out that we had this competence in house. And when we started up this podcasting, we directly thought, okay, this is an opportunity to invite you and talk about this Tipcheck and so on. So I think what you said now, how much you can gain and save, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's extremely much money out there. It's going up in the smoke on this. So.
Yeah.
It's what we experienced after handing in the Tipcheck report when we went into a plant and investigated about the savings potential. There is a second aspect, which is at this very moment where energy prices are increasing, and we all face when we fuel the cars, if we still have combustion engines, maybe even electric, and electricity is also getting, of course, more expensive. How much, not only for climate change, but also for economic reasons, we should really not waste energy. And that's really an urgency. And what we've seen since the Ukraine war started and energy prices have really risen dramatically, besides that in parallel, of course, also there is an aim to increase the CO2 cost. But the payback time for technical installation improvements have on average been at 2 years' time before, and now with the new energy prices in many Tipcheck projects, we see below 12 months. This means for the investor that he gets the money paid back in the year of his investment. And this is a no-brainer, but still we see we have to do a lot of marketing and work to let the world know that this potential is out there and how cost attractive it is.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, you had a good example there with the Tesla. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. So our Tesla example is actually, nowadays with Elon Musk going a little bit X, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that the Tesla is still the most popular electric car to use. But of course, when we started with this calculation, you can use any electric car, of course. We were looking at a DN 150 degrees Celsius valve on a pipe, which was uninsulated and is losing about 10,600 kilowatt hours. If you put a simple insulation box around this valve, you can save the 10,000 kilowatt hours. How much is 10,000 kilowatt hours? We thought nobody knows that. So let's transfer this into electricity. Then you get about 4,000 kilowatt hours to charge the battery of your electric car. And with these 4,000 kilowatt hours, you drive the Tesla 20,000 kilometers. And this is unbelievable. That's, most of us don't even run 20,000 kilometers a year. Hopefully not. Hopefully we all take trains whenever possible, but that's another story. Yeah. But insulating one valve drives a Tesla for 1 year. And that's the energy you can save.
This is actually a very good eye-opener for the people, because then they understand it. Because if you talk about all the other things, they don't understand really what we are talking about. But you can put that example and they can see, can I drive my Tesla so long only to do that? Lord, why haven't I done it before?
Yeah. Often our suppliers do have example, you have a pipe. If you have a pipe without insulation, then transfer it to watt. You can have light bulbs, a bulb, And if you insulated this, you have 24 watt, for example. This is very easy for us to see, okay, if we show our customer that you can save this if you put this thickness of insulation on. So this Tesla example, I think is brilliant, because this is, okay, start listening.
Yeah, and also with the light bulbs, it's like the old ones.
Yeah, that's the old one.
Anymore.
It's not a Tesla.
No, but it's not. What you
we
call
have the
them?
LED lamps.
The LED lamps.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I'm an old guy.
Yeah.
So for me, it's Edison and the...
Edison. We measure in whale
You
fat
still
and
talk to
stuff
that
like
guy.
Yeah. What is a step? Before that, how many Tipcheck experts are they today in Europe?
Yeah, so we have had very busy years. Last year we did 4 trainings. This year we will do 4 trainings. So one will be in English International, first week of November, 4th of November, and the week. And the second one is then a German training, because the demand in German language is so strong that we can fill up a complete training there, which is in the first week of December. So 6th November to 10th November and 4th December to 8th December, 2 Tipcheck trainings where, if people are interested, can still register for. And we have about 140 registered Tipcheck experts now. With those 2 trainings, where we expect at least 10 each, we will be 160 more or less. So that's quite a large number, and we can provide Tipcheck expertise from Asia to Europe. Even in Saudi Arabia we have one, and they all are employed either by one of our member companies, or more and more we have individual energy auditors who participate in EiiF as consultants and get certified as Tipcheck experts. All of them have been working for insulation companies before, because the experience you need to have, and which is requested to do a proper Tipcheck, is significant, of course. You can train a lot of things in 1 week about the methodology on how to use the digital tools like the TBI app, but the insulation experience has to be there before. And it's a very good development. It's definitely going in the right direction. And as we said before, a Tipcheck creates a win-win-win situation. So for the insulation company, it's actually a paid marketing sales tool. For the client, it immediately pays back, as I said before, if a payback time is below 12 months and you identify all these uninsulated equipment, and we find it in any plant, no matter where we go. So typically valves, pairs of flanges, but also pipes where insulation has been removed for some maintenance work and never been put back on.
Exactly.
People just don't know how much money they lose. In the last Tipcheck we did at a steel producer in Germany, we had this typical example that the manhole was uninsulated, but the insulation box was 2 meters next to it.
Yeah.
We calculated for the client, this box next to it loses 1,000 euros every year. And it takes 10 seconds to push it back on again, but his workers don't know that. And this is exactly where we have to work to build this awareness that in industry, the energy consumption is at such a high level. You know, if you're a private person, you would definitely recognize on your energy bill that you didn't push back the insulation box to the manhole. In a steel producer, these 1,000 euros is less than peanuts. That's not even, the skin of a peanut. But if you have 100 of those, it does make a difference.
It's a lot, yeah.
And the typical reaction then we get from our client is, you don't know what you don't know until you know. Because they are as surprised as we were at the very beginning. When we started the whole program back in 2009, and we started the Tipcheck program, and we started to go into plants, we were thinking about improving existing insulation. We were not thinking about mainly checking uninsulated equipment, because we had not expected how many uninsulated equipment or not well-maintained equipment is out there.
But this is quite scary, actually, when you mentioned that, because my thought was that it was in bad shape, but they didn't have any shape because there was no insulation at all. This is insane. And you have
really
some
burning money.
And you had some typical example when we were in Munich that week, that meters and meters, thousands of meters was uninsulated, and you can do a Tipcheck for 50 minutes and you save a lots of money only to point on that on one single pipe. If you put the insulation on that one, you save that kind of money. And this is Europe and 2023. It should be. It's scary, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I have another question, Andreas, regarding the Tipcheck.
Jeg finner ikke Bjarne I kontakter.
Siri was trying to answer on that one.
That was not me.
No.
Not me either. Who is Bjarne?
I don't know. When it comes to the expert, we are 140 of them now for the moment. A lot of these guys are quite old. What is the aim to get in the future? Is it an aim to be 200 that's active, or?
Yeah, well, we depend, of course, very much on our members, and of course, we do know that qualified staff is an even bigger challenge than anything else. So we do have, of course, installation contractors who have too much work to do for the number of staff they employ, and they try hard to find young people and get them attracted for the technical installation business. Of course, we see that with Tipcheck services, just think about using infrared technology, using the digital TVI app on a mobile device, makes this job, of course, more attractive to the younger generation. What we should not forget is also that the younger generation, my son is 12 years old, and we were talking about cars because there was a British car meeting at the Lake Geneva this weekend. And we were looking at these nice and old Rolls-Royce and Mini Coopers and whatsoever. And he then said, but if this car is not practical, why should I go and invest into such an old-timer? It's dirty, it's not good for the environment, it's a different way of thinking already with 12 years old, that a car is not as such, like we would be freaking out for an old Jaguar. No, it's more like it's polluting, and if it's just for fun, why should I pollute the environment just for fun? So this generation definitely has a very good and different sense in how they judge things, which for us, we all freak out with the Tesla, 20,000 kilometers. But luckily, this next generation is not as such. And therefore, I do think this aspect that we save energy, that we reduce emissions, that they can become energy auditors, work with digital tools, be in a modern environment with a very safe job, because we will always need insulation. One of the latest projects I was involved in was a big ammonia tank to be built. We know hydrogen also needs, of course, then insulation. Of course, the big refineries, most likely, we won't see as much in the future. But I do think this environmental aspect is a plus to get young people attracted. And of course, we see, for example, one of the two European champions at the FESI Championship is already a Tipcheck expert. So he started his career, he finished his apprenticeship, became the German champion first, and then participated now in September in the FESI Championship. But even before that, he said, I need to be a Tipcheck expert.
Okay.
And of course, that also shows that those young people who are really ambitious and really want to go and have a career in technical installation very much appreciate this opportunity to become trained as an energy auditor specialized on our technique.
That's good. Really nice to hear, I think. Yeah. I have a question. How to work as a Tipcheck expert? What's the step? Are you just calling or tell I can save you some money, or how does it work?
Yeah. So what we've also learned over the past more than 10 years with experience now is that when you try to sell the Tipcheck idea to a maintenance person, the person the contractor usually talks to, it is very difficult to do. Because what you offer him is that he needs to invest more money into something he did not put in his budget at the end of the year before, or in the budget for this year. And if he's saving energy in the end, this is not his own responsibility. So he spends more money than he has in his budget, which is never good. And his colleague from the energy department will see that he has somehow reduced energy cost, but doesn't even know why. And this is a problem we learned to bridge. So the developments that also with the new Energy Efficiency Directive recast, which was adopted now on the 25th of July, where all companies with an annual consumption above 85 terajoules, they are obliged now in Europe to implement an energy management, according to ISO 50001, for example. For us, this is the big opportunity that all these companies have an energy responsible manager. And if we contact this manager and offer the Tipcheck services, it's of course more an open door we run into. Because he doesn't have, maybe we talked about it before, LEDs is in a similar way attractive to exchange them. But then there's not much low-hanging fruit out there like technical installation where you invest and you get the money back in the same year. And it's simple to do. Most of the jobs you can do during full production, so you don't have to stop your production. And of course, it comes with a lot of multiple benefits, which is less noise, better working conditions, because you get from 35 degrees down to 22, maybe in the same room. So it's a very, very positive opportunity for energy managers. So this is key. That answers hopefully your question. So we need
absolutely. I have thought about it because I'm a former seller myself, and if you, as Trond and Christian, represent a wholesaler for technical installation, it's okay now as a new seller here. I'm not interesting. That's why I ask how to make them interested about this, how to work. I think this is an important question.
Yeah. So what we've also learned over the past years, because we were a bit worried at the very beginning that the energy auditor who goes into the plant to identify the savings potential is working for an installation company. So the client could fear he's not checking my energy efficiency levels. He's actually trying to make business with me. And with this, let's say, energy audit, trying to sell more than necessary. This is why, until today, the Tipcheck program is only open to member companies of EiiF, because all, Trond and Christian as well, signed a Tipcheck contract. And in this contract, we all agree that if a client is suspicious and doesn't really trust the report, he can always come to EiiF to get a neutral check. And we do this randomly, and I have to say, with more than 3,000 Tipchecks, we've never had one case where the savings calculated were completely wrong, or where we had a case where you could say, okay, he's trying to sell more than needed. So it runs very well. And as we said before, think about the Tesla example. If you put the box and from 10,600 kilowatt hours losing or losses, you can immediately save 10,000. It doesn't matter if it's 10,000, 8,000, or maybe even 10,200. You save. And it's so simple that it's, I have to say, stupid not to do it. Yeah. And this is very much the result, but we take it very, very sensitive, and therefore we really make it obligatory to be an EiiF member, and then you can offer Tipcheck services. What we have added, because we now have also Tipcheck experts at Linde, Covestro, one who's working for BP, that we have and offer this Tipcheck corporate expert model. This is for engineers, expert working for big chemical companies, for example, responsible for the installation inside their own plants and want to use it internally. So they can also join the Tipcheck training. And of course, these companies don't have to necessarily, we would welcome them, of course, in the membership, but they don't necessarily have to be a member, because if they do a wrong Tipcheck for themselves, well, it's their own responsibility.
But I think this is so important, because every week now you can read about environment change, energy costs, and so on. So it's right time to do this. I think we can move forward because of what's happening in the world in the moment. So for us, this Tipcheck experts we have in house is so important, because we work with technical installation every day, and we talk internally about we work for the future. That's what we said. We have it on stock, the future, a little bit as a seller, I would say. But I think if we look further, what should we do to promote this more? To
US ISO partner as a distributor.
Yeah.
I think what is already fantastic about the IPCOM group as such is that you've been really sending a lot of your experts now to the past trainings.
Yeah.
Maybe you can even find one or two more for the next two. This is a big support for the whole program as such. And I would say what we see, because of course as a distributor you're in a very, like the manufacturers, you're in a very special position.
Yeah.
So if you're a contractor, it's rather straightforward. You go to your client, you talk for the first time as a Tipcheck expert with his energy manager, you explain the idea, and I can tell you we have big contractors who since January did a Tipcheck every week, and the return rate is 9 out of 10 clients invest in the recommendations of the Tipcheck service. So they are celebrating this year.
Yeah.
That is straightforward and easy. For you, of course, it's much more complicated. Because you're not directly involved finally in designing the solution, providing the solution. You provide, of course, the material then to the contractor. What we see works very well is when your experts team up with smaller contractors who maybe don't have a Tipcheck expert today, maybe never will have, because they have once in a while the opportunity to work on a bigger plant, and most of the time they work in building equipment, and hopefully there, according to the normal building codes, insulation has to be applied, and there should not be any uninsulated equipment. But of course we know in existing buildings there's huge potential as well. So to team up with a contractor can be very, very interesting for you, because of course that is a differentiation to other distributors, because I don't know any other big distributor who has Tipcheck experts in his own rows, nor even have we another one as a member in our organization. So IPCOM is a real first mover ISO partner with the Tipcheck experts. You are first movers, definitely in Norway and Sweden.
Yeah, and
I
Finland
think
also,
this is a very, very interesting offer for even smaller contractors, but maybe here and there even also the bigger ones, to team up and cooperate and do projects together. But of course, that is something to be developed. I also have to say we should not be naive. This is not happening by itself, by just, hey, I'm a Tipcheck expert, and then it's going to work. So it's like with everything, if people don't know the solution, you have to tell them about the solution. And as I said before, then you know that this is a great solution for you. But we should not expect that clients are sitting there and think about technical installation when they look at the energy bill or they look at the CO2 cost. They think about it buying new, more energy efficient pumps, maybe a new refrigerator, oven, generator, steam producer, whatsoever. But the simple thing they can immediately start with, they usually don't have on their own agenda. And they don't get it if we have to take it there. That's for sure.
Christian and Trond, do you have had contact with people to offer this Tipcheck?
Yeah, some people we have. I ended up in some strange situations where the plant, I don't know what you call it in English, and lack box. What kallar man det?
You have the paint box for they are painting stuff.
Okay.
It's a huge one. It's 65 meter long, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a big one. And the guys who build it wasn't gonna do the insulation. So we had to do some calculations there and found out that if you insulate it, it will 1.6 year, I think, if the energy price was, what do we calculate, 15 cents. So it's quick.
Yeah, it's very quick. I think this is a very good thing to promote. The short time you had this investment back. I think
it's extremely low compared to other things.
Yeah. And then Andreas, you said you had this example of 35 degrees in a room. Now you have 20. You know, in our branch, they always talk about uninsulated pipes. It's bring energy to the house, you know, warming up the house and so on. But that's not the thing to say, because I think you should bring energy from A to B on minimum of energy loss. That's I think it's a good point.
Of course, but you know, we had a Tipcheck example where they had 35 degrees in winter, opened the windows to have a kind of nice working climate, and then was quite economically feasible to insulate all this. And they started then freezing in winter and had to build in a new heating system, which was not there beforehand. Unfortunately, they didn't talk to us. So they were, when it was too late and the new heating system was installed, they said we had to correct the payback time because the investment for the heating system, of course, needs to be calculated again. Maybe then it was 5 years. It was still attractive. But however, they could have simply built the system on the uninsulated pipe with some easy to remove boxes. And depending on how cold it is outside, they remove 1 or 2 boxes and put it on again when it gets warmer. Yeah. And no need to invest into a new heating system. I have to say that's a bit of a hands-on solution, but it works. And I have to say, even after more than 10 years now, it's fascinating if you go into a room and you have this experience with 35. I had a Tipcheck this summer in a German chemical plant, and we had to wear long sleeves, special fire protection cloth, which is at 22 degrees already not very nice to do, but at 40 degrees sometimes, and equipment emitting heat of 75, 80, 90 degrees is really not pleasant. But it's amazing if you then go back to these plants after they have been insulated and you actually ask for a jacket.
Yeah.
And it demonstrates again and again how well insulation performs the job it shall perform. So that is the big advantage of our technology as well. You can build in more energy efficient pumps. For example, it's a typical example I got from an energy manager. But finally, the way they were operated, they were not more energy efficient than the old ones. So they didn't save a kilowatt hour and they had a massive investment. This can't happen to insulation. If you insulate anything that has been uninsulated before, you can only win. There's nothing. It can be a little bit less or even a little bit more kilowatt hours, but you will definitely save.
Yeah, I have a good example. This is 20 years, I believe. There was a big house where one of our customers did the insulation in the ground. There was less insulation on the pipes. And when he had finished that work, people living on the bottom floor called and asked him, "Why have you turned off the underfloor heating?" They thought they have. So that's a good example as well. Yeah. I think this. I'm really grateful that you want to be here and talk about this topic and how we can move forward with this Tipcheck experts, because I think this is the real way to go. Just to explain the how to gain all your benefits you gain if you do this. I think this brilliant. Christian and Trond, how do we work further with this? Do you have a thought what to do?
We was together with Parok on last week, Thursday and Friday, and they have some Tipchecks expert as well. And I talked to Rune there, and he say the way they are thinking is that to connect with Kefir, Wilfinger, all of these guys, and see if they are willing to go to their client again to give the opportunity to make a Tipcheck on the project. Typical project like Prem i Lysekil, vad heter på also this kind of stuffs. Because for me to go out there and say, I want to do a Tipcheck here, then I'm stepping on Kefir. So he was thinking maybe that's the good idea to do that. So, and it's a little bit what Andreas also say. If you come like a sales guy, want to do a Tipcheck, it's not that easy. I can also get Kefir piece because they have the maintenance there, and they still want to have it. And I think also, I'm not saying that the big company is not thinking Tipcheck way, but they have the maintenance, huge contracts. They need the hours, they need the money. So it's a way to get into it is to talk to these guys first. Which project, maybe a new project, to tell them how much to save if to do the correct installation. And not only do the minimal installation to get the C class or B. We talk in the Munich week there that we always calculate on C, Andreas. Why should we not go for the B class?
For existing plants, we think it's realistic to start with the energy class C. Because of course if you increase the performance and you don't want to go for the super expensive material, but let's say use the standard materials like elastomerics in cold, mineral wool in hot insulation, at some point you get to the limits of space because the plants are not built for an energy class B, the ones who are existing. And we of course also know it's much better to do C than to do nothing. That is the big difference. Think about the Tesla example. This box is not even a C and saves 10,000 of the 10,600 kilowatt hours. So in general, I would promote the idea to go to the best possible level, which is, of course, also reasonable from an effort point of view. And with this, you get the big part already done. Of course, in new build projects, our vision is at some point that there is, like today in the building sector anyway, but also for the industrial sector, if you want to get the permit for your production, you have to guarantee that your installation system is wherever possible and the process allows an energy class B or better. That is, of course, what we need to aim for. And I have to say, what we have achieved all together, because EiiF is driven by the community and by members like ISO partner, of course, but also others. We were talking about Kefir. They have 16 Tipcheck experts all over the world. At this very moment, I'm not so sure that in Scandinavia they are very strong, but
No,
that
they
is
are
also
not for the
something to
moment.
check. Yeah, but I think there it is really important to put the focus on energy performance and to talk with the client about the performance of his installation system. In 2009, what the experts told me was, we talk always about the price. And therefore, at that time, there were no energy classes. Our first Tipcheck calculator, and you both know how to work with it, is built on inserting a price list and evaluating the cost optimum for the installation solution. Because we thought the only argument to convince a client to invest is actually the cost argument. And now, after 10 years, we managed to change this with the energy classes, because we have seen that with the energy classes and, of course, the energy prices where they are, this cost optimum is actually not the driving point for our client. The driving point for our client is now a management decision to decarbonize until 2050, is a high energy price they don't want to pay anymore, or at least they see they can reduce the risk in saving energy as such. And that is a really nice new development that with these energy classes, no matter if we discuss put C, put B, of course I wouldn't talk about anything less than that, we have the client, let's say, at a position where he himself thinks about the performance of the installation system. And before, he was looking at insulation like a necessary evil.
Yeah.
Okay, there's personal protection, people could burn their hands. Okay, put the minimum needed to put the temperature below 60 degrees Celsius.
Yeah. Today,
Same client, same pipe, same situation, you would say. With an energy class C system, this is your payback. And
It's easier
I think
to handle.
that is really important.
Yeah.
Very good. Any questions more? I think it's very clear. For me, I think this is the right way to go, as I said before. We started to approach the end of this episode, and this
I have a question regarding buildings, because we are focused on the industry, but there is a huge potential on the building as well. You have some rules that you have to put in Sweden are better than Norway, by the way, when it comes to the thicknesses and things like that.
Well, the thickness, but we don't insulate everything here in Sweden.
And we have a less thickness in Norway, but we insulate everything on the buildings, also the valves and everything. So, but there is buildings out there, old buildings, who is missing a lot of insulation, valves, tons of it. On if you just go to the Oslo, for example, and all the old buildings there, is a huge potential there also. We're focused on the industry. Yeah, it's a huge one, but we still have a job to do when it comes to the buildings. And we can
sorry.
Yeah, continue, Thomas.
Continue. I just interesting. How is it in Europe? Or do they insulate everything? Pipes and in houses and so on. Is it better insulated in Europe than in Sweden and Norway?
No, I don't think so. It's what we see is, of course, that in the building energy performance of buildings directive, for example, every member state has transposed that into national law. So either it's the energy efficiency of the building as such, and then you can do different things, but you need to guarantee a kind of energy performance of the building. Of course, we know that the renovation wave is still not there where it should be, of course, and the European Union is putting a lot of effort into this. And of course, insulation then even of the envelope of the building plays, of course, an important role. But it's always very, very difficult, but still it's something you need to do. Again, when we go into the heating HVAC system of the building and we find uninsulated equipment, this is such a no-brainer and easy thing to do.
Yeah.
So we do have more than 1,800, I guess. In the meantime, it's almost 2,000 Tipchecks in the building equipment environment. And of course there, because there is a special challenge how you organize your Tipcheck, because you don't make the big money, right? If you go to a refinery, you can come home with easily with a contract of 200,000 euros afterwards. So if you spend one day for the Tipcheck and you get paid for it, it's worthwhile traveling there. If you check the heating room of a hotel and the air conditioning, you should not spend more than 2 hours there, and it should not take you half a day to drive there, right? Because all the money you can make with this is kind of a limited amount, but still, of course, necessary for the environment. And still, if you do it well, and we have some specialized companies in our membership who earn a fortune by doing this in a very, very professional and efficient way.
I think we meet one of these guys in our meeting in learning in Munich, Barry.
Barry, yeah.
Barry. He was into the buildings a lot, and
he
used
did
it already
mattresses
there.
for valves.
Barry Branden from BIT in the Netherlands. That's actually their business model. And they are very, very successful. Alexander Norder from Termatras, for example, he did more than 1,800 himself with his team. And he did the building of the European Commission even. But also elderly homes, schools, hotels, hospitals. This is all important to go. I was involved at the beginning of this year at a hospital Tipcheck in Germany, where we're looking at an old steam heating system for this hospital. But the biggest savings potential we found was that they had windows open in winter and nobody knew why. And with the infrared camera, you could see that by just simply closing these windows and finding a way that, I don't know, whoever in this hospital is always opening the window and never closing it again, and he stops doing that, is an immediate savings potential with no cost.
Huge effect
so,
directly.
Behavioral change is, of course, also something. And let's say, to finalize this, also we, of course, depend on a behavioral change on our client side, that they see technical installation as an energy efficiency equipment, tool, opportunity, and that we continue talking to them about the performance of an installation system. And when the performance is clear, we can talk about the price. And if we then show the short payback time, the price is usually not an issue.
No, that's true.
So it's a win-win for everyone involved. Installation contractors, US distributors do good business. The client has improved his production cost by reducing energy and CO2 cost. And of course, the environment and the climate is happy that 40 megatons, just to repeat that, 40 megatons, 10 million households, cost effectively insulated. You know, we should not waste this opportunity.
No, I agree. I really agree with that. Okay. Now, there were questions. I'm glad for that. Thank you, Trond. I think this is...
I have more questions.
Sorry?
I have more questions.
Very good.
So I think about in the future now, Andreas. What are you working with for the moment?
The highest priority, as I said before, is the standardization project, the EN 7956. So there's not so much work anymore to do because we handed in, I think it was 15 September, the final draft. And then it is translated now to French and German. And then mid of February next year starts the final vote. In this, only typos and commas can be corrected, but not the standard as such. And then end of May, Q2, we hope, or this is actually the timetable when EN 7956 will be published. And we are, of course, working already now to promote with the European Union, but also with national governments, that the energy classes exist, that there is this European norm. And the nice thing about it is you don't need to know anything about technical installation. You know energy class ABC from your fridge or washing machine.
Yeah.
And a politician can easily follow the idea that it makes no sense to put all pressure on buildings if then the big energy consumers uninsulate or keep pipes, storage tanks or valves and flanges uninsulated and don't care about the performance of their own insulation systems. So we do see a big opportunity, and of course this is our focus, to check that mandatory in the best case or guidance which performance for an insulation system an industrial company has to use. And of course we also think this will have an impact on the HVAC heating systems of buildings. But there we know that in many countries there is already good regulation in place, but still not consequently followed. Right.
That's the main thing, I think, because there are things that they should follow, but they don't follow it.
And another thing we just decided in our last board meeting is that we want to get in touch with I don't know how to call that, future agency. And we will try to conduct a study together with them about the vision. Where will our profession, technical installation, be in 20 years? So what is the typical industrial environment? How will the buildings look like? And what will be our job as technical insulators in this, from today to tomorrow? And of course, we know that the big, dirty, old stuff is rather reduced. But then there's new modern like hydrogen, where insulation is still needed, and technical insulation will always be needed, of course. But I think that is very interesting to get an answer. What to expect? How will we work? Are we using robots? Are we using different kind of materials? How do we get good people on board? How could this profession look like in 20 years is something very interesting. I can't answer today in this podcast, but hopefully maybe end of next year when the study is done, we can give a bit more concrete idea. And then, of course, I didn't talk about it. I said we have 6 fields of activity. So to Tipcheck, standardization, lobbying, building awareness, we add the membership as such. So to keep the membership as live as it is. So your podcast is a fantastic example. We are doing some other nice projects. I'm flying in November 2 times. Unfortunately, I have to fly because it's too far away for the train. But to do workshops in cooperation with the British Insulation Association to explain all about Tipcheck to their members, but also to asset owners, which is organized by them, which is fantastic, of course. And then besides our membership, which is very active, we started the the EiiF Academy. And EiiF Academy is actually our online university, EiiF University, let's say, where we offer online and offline workshops on how to use the digital tools, how to identify, and of course in the future, how to calculate the energy classes and how the workflow is if you need to design a system and the client doesn't give you more in the specification than simply saying, insulate the steam pipe with an energy class B system. And then you need to know how to do that, and we will offer, of course, trainings for this.
And is it any corporate? You said England, but are there any cooperation with the other parts of the world, like America, or do you talk?
Not for now. It is something we have on the agenda. We did have some exchange in the past. But we see that this technical installation market, it's easier to go via companies like Rockwool to Asia, and where we have some Tipcheck experts, even also Amacel and others, Käfer. But the US is from an installation market a little bit of a closed-up market. They're using different techniques, different material, which doesn't matter at all, because with the energy classes, you can use whatever you want. You just need to get to the performance. But this is also something for the future where we want to intensify a bit more the cooperation. But as you know, we are very small foundation, so we have 3 staff employed, and we have to focus. And the focus for now is definitely and is still, of course, Europe. And anything beyond that comes to us, we have very open doors. But we ourselves can't reach out to let's say, to the other parts of the world. However, we most likely organize a Tipcheck training in Singapore beginning of next year.
Okay.
To offer to people from Australia, from Asia, to join this training without the need that they all fly to Munich.
Ah,
So
nice.
this will be in cooperation, hopefully, with Amacel and Rockwool and KEFA. It's actually an idea initiated by KEFA because they have quite some people interested in Australia. To do it also there cost effectively and to reduce the traveling to the minimum needed.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think Sweden, you have this green steel up in the north.
Yeah.
So I think when this is real, I think that gonna think about insulation and so on, how important it is to be a green plant. So it's many things is happening, and I think so in a moment. Okay, other questions?
No.
I'm fine today.
Outside today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to thank you, Andreas, to
Actually,
join
I
this
have one.
podcast. Yes, every time I say that,
Yeah.
impressive.
We don't want to let Andreas go. We have him now for the moment.
That's good. That's good.
No, I was thinking about this Chrome 6 business that I haven't really understood what it is. It's what is
Yeah,
it?
well,
It's
We are not specialized as EiiF in this,
No.
but of course we took notice that under very special conditions, Chrome 6 appears under insulation and of course can then kind of be caught in the insulation material. But the main thing is that what we as EiiF would advise all employers to do is to say, if you have these special conditions where Chrome 6 could occur, then do the warning to your staff to work as if there was Chrome 6. So you do all the protection, all the necessary needs to protect your workers, of course, until you have the proof that there is no Chrome 6. Because not in every special situation, which seems to be a Chrome 6 situation, let's call it like this, you will find one. If you find one, then of course you have to carefully remove it. But I would not take this hysteric. I would take this professional, because it exists for many years now, and we know that not on all, it is a hazard. If you work properly, it's not very dangerous. If you don't work properly, it is very dangerous. But we haven't had the experience in the past that every second insulation worker died because he was working at a plant where Chrome 6 occurred. Usually we are well protected, but take it very seriously, protect the workers, and find a good way to inform. I think that is very important. And of course, I think this is the responsibility of us all, not to ignore it, but also not to be hysteric about it, but treat it professional, and then we are able to treat it. That's also the good thing. It's not flying in the air, right? And usually if you go into the plant, you don't lick the pipe.
No. Normally. Normally you don't do that.
in some occasions.
Normally.
Exactly. So it's a bit like you have a poisonous mushroom in your garden.
Yeah.
You don't stop going into your garden.
No.
You would definitely either tell your kids not to touch it, or you would use some gloves and take it out, and that's it, right? And I think we should be professional,
And
not
behave.
ignore it, and then there is professional ways how to work with it, and I think most of the big contractors do it exactly like this.
Good. Any more questions?
No.
Here, come along. Okay, thank you very much again, Andreas.
Thank you very
for
much.
you to be a guest in our podcast, and hopefully we can invite you again.
No, I'm happy to do that again. It was nice experience. And
Yeah.
I have to say, my first podcast like this.
Yeah.
So I like the creativity of our members and coming up with new modern ideas. And of course, I hope to those who listen that they will look different to the uninsulated equipment they see in their own plants and understand that this is money they are just burning, besides that it's polluting the environment.
And we have a task to bring it out and really move forward, I think. Den här podcasten är producerad av ISO-partner, en av Sveriges ledande leverantörer av teknisk isolering. Du hittar allt du behöver gällande teknisk isolering på isopartner.se. Du kan följa den här podden på Spotify, YouTube eller en annan